Well, alrighty then. New mystery, as it turns out. Weirder development of mystery. A few different things going on here. So, we discovered that wheelchair lady has a missing husband, which is bad. But also, we discovered that these guys are just gonna take the fall for the murder. Which means they probably didn't even do it. It's probably like a local power struggle that... a local power structure that incentivizes them to take the fall for them. Maybe they're getting a kickback. Maybe there's some kind of benefit to the whole thing. Hard to say. But there's almost certainly an eighth person that they don't want me to know about that's definitely behind all this. Alright. But I have plenty of other threads to follow up on too. More than anything, I just want to keep exploring the world, and once I've fully explored it, then I know I've seen all there is to see, perhaps, and then I can know what to do with my cases. It is a little funny having the contrast between the cases themselves and also the process through which I need to there's the cases themselves, but then there's also the part where I need to, you know, do my RPG gameplay and explore this world, which we've gotten we've done this, all the way to this building. Nothing behind this wall and nothing past this building. So we still have plenty to go. I'm really curious about the church and stuff like that and what's going to happen there and all that. This is the thing I want to get into, yeah. Yeah. I kind of skipped past this because I was focused on other things at the time. I was just trying to get to sleep. Trying to deal with the more pressing matter, the time limit, but... yeah. This is the pawn shop, right? I need to look into my gun situation. One of the many potential things that came up was not that many, but a vague potential thing was the idea that I might have pawned the gun. So let's look into that.
Top of the morning to you. How may I be of service?
Early bird gets the worm, huh? Or isn't being forced to work, get up at dawn a little inhumane, or so glad you're already awake. It's so lonely in the... yeah, it's fun. That's kind of a fun note. I'm so glad you're already awake. It's so lonely in this city at this hour.
Perhaps. I just like being awake for the transition between night and morning, bearing witness to the first hints of light on the horizon.
Is Roy high? And if yes, what is he on? 92% despite my terrible electrochemistry score. +2 from Roy's prices are strange. +1 from Roy doesn't really sleep. Good point. +2 odd brain activity. +1 composure noticed psychedelics. I'm way better at this than I was yesterday, apparently. Feeling warm and enthralled by the movement of light, while the mind continues to race forward. Lucky bastard, he's probably on pure Holodon. It's tough to come by on the street. Alright, let's do the thing where I Google whether this is real or not. P-Y-R... Holodon. Pure Holodon. First result is Disco Elysium, so no. I'm guessing this is not a real drug. Here, hold on, what's that? A drug developed by the military to treat and prevent radiation sickness. It has psychedelic side effects, and it makes your eyes turn yellow. Like jaundice? Is it just me, or is it really warm in here? He tilts his head. I tried to keep the shop as comfortable as at a comfortable temperature. No judgments, just curious. I probably did lots of pure Holodon before I lost my memory. I've had to take it, you know, since the People's Pile cleanup. He responds carefully. I was with the Emergency Relief Brigade. Oh, does he have radiation sickness, so he takes a psychedelic drug for the rest of his life, potentially, to treat it? The People's Pile. A bad idea. Some poor leftist built a particle decay generator in hopes of bringing affordable electricity to underserved communities. It malfunctioned. Radioactive waste everywhere. Probably some of it in you, too. The People's Pile was a Type U particle decay generator that failed immediately after entering service, releasing radioactive waste into River Esperis. What's a particle decay generator? A primitive nuclear reactor, also called a pile. Why is it called the People's Pile? Construction began during the Commune of Revachol. The people continued work on it after the commune fell. They wanted a cheap source of energy for Revachol West. Needless to say, things didn't work out. Why did it fail? An emergency valve defect resulted in steam pressure blowing the turbine, taking the fuel containment vessel up in the explosion. Both the faulty design and lack of finances contributed to the catastrophe. Tell me more about this emergency relief brigade you were part of. He points to the white triangle on his orange safety jacket. We were all a volunteer force. Self-organized. Tried to help fire brigades contain the spill. On the patch, gamma radiation lines crossed with a red drop of blood. I lived by the river since I was a small boy. The Esperis didn't have the heart to let it all go to shit without trying to do something to help out. There wasn't much the volunteer force could do, however. We wasted years in the river mud. Years getting sick. He looks at the spiraling light and it stops. Must have been tough. Radioactive cleanup. He hesitates. There's a reason why everyone's tried to forget any of it ever happened, and why no one has tried to repair or replace the pile. So much disappointment, and early deaths, cancer mostly, and we knew all that was coming, even as we were cleaning up as best we could. Whose fault was it the generator failed? No one's. Everyone's. He sighs and shakes his head. So much bitterness. A bunch of poor people built themselves a primitive nuclear reactor hoping for the best. What do you think is going to happen? How did you end up running a pawn shop? The cleanup happened 15 years ago. I was young then. Later my second aunt died. Left me this shack and the assorted junk in it. So I came to Martinez. People told me, don't go there, it's a shithole. I said, people, we just had a nuclear pile meltdown. I'm gonna get as far from Foulborg as I can. Still in the same city, but he shrugs. Thank you for telling me. He shrugs. I like theory more than story. Outward movement, not vortices. Yeah, you gotta get in on those vortices, my man. By the way, do you happen to have any guns like the ones carried by officers of the Citizens Militia? Someone else came here earlier today asking the same question. How much earlier? I promptly sold her the gun you pawned a couple days back. This is a pawn shop, and it did feel as if you'd met before. Oh god. The lieutenant shifts from 1 feet to another. 1 feet. Alert. Wait, I sold you my gun? You were adamant about getting rid of it, officer. He hesitates. Said you were undeserving of a service weapon of the Revachol Citizens Militia. And I don't like keeping guns around the shop for long. Off the charts photon emissions, the unhealthy kind. Was the buyer a policeman too? She didn't seem like a policeman, although she kept referring to herself as a pig, which was odd. I found her interest in the gun a bit obsessive, but I was just happy to get rid of it, and of her. Is it gonna be Skull Lady? With the red paint, maybe? She keeps saying pig. Truth be told, she was terrifying. Right, so let me get this right. Lieutenant turns to you. You sold your firearm, issued by the Citizens Militia, and now a civilian is running around the streets of Martinez with it. I don't like it either. What if she intends to commit a crime and blame it on Citizens Militia? You're right that she could cast aspirations on the Force. We have to find her. He looks around, worried. Any idea where I can find this buyer? My apologies, officer, but I have no idea where she was coming from or where she went. A needle in a haystack. There is nothing you can do about it now. You'll have to hope you luck upon her somehow. At least now I know how I lost my sidearm. Let's talk about something else. Of course. Nope. That's it for now. If I'm lucky, though, I already have a lead. And if not, well, maybe I'll talk to the old lady on the boat anyway, because we have plenty more to discuss. It's just, she talks a lot. She talks a lot. I keep opening my map reflexively because of Pillars of Eternity and other games where you can click on a part of your map to go there. But that's not how this works. Who's this? You see a sturdy woman humming to herself. She seems to be browsing books. Hey, someone's actually browsing books. Neat. Is that Loose Radio City you're reading?
Yes, a sci-fi.
She says without reverting her attention to the book. From the book. Who are you?
Me? No one. I'm just a working class woman.
She doesn't really want to be disturbed that much. If she's such a working class woman, why isn't she working? Well, everyone else in this game's on strike at the moment, so... What are you doing?
Looking for something to read.
She reverts attention to the worn-out paperback. Good, good.
It is.
I'm a policeman.
I know you are.
Do you need the help of a policeman?
What with?
She tries hard to focus on the book stand. What with? A lot of things. For example, people tend to go missing. Oh no, my mouse is starting to grind. I guess I should go... It's probably time to look for a new one. It's all worn down. Oh well. Maybe your husband's missing. My husband? No, he's not. So where... Okay, thanks. I don't like this this pressuring of like, where's your husband? You're a woman. I don't like that. Maybe your cockatoo is missing? Watch her browse books. Her hands move over the book covers. The tips of her fingers look rough, stained with yellow. It seems like she has spent a lot of time at work, smoking. Another comrade. Years of labor are pressing down on her shoulders. She deserves a hug for all the work she's done for mankind. Do not give her a hug. Jesus Christ. That's all for the moment. I'll let you read. The woman before you nods and returns to reading. Don't weirdly intrude on people, like, move on. What is that? Oh, I think it's a bag. I thought it was a cat. A yellow bag from Fritte. This plastic bag has Fritte sick written on it in dynamic, forceful manner that implies great prices. As you crack it open, a malty gust of air flies in your face. It smells of yeast and beer. A perfect place for tear. Can I put it in my hand? I can. Oh my god, I can totally collect garbage in order to make money. Oh my god. This is interesting. Alright. You hear the distant squall of seabirds. I can actually go around and collect garbage in my bag in order to pay for my rent. That's rather amusing. That's quite the inclusion.
Yes.
Yep. He just seemed taken aback by the view, so I was curious how interested he was in the view. Oh, is this like a cubby? Oh, more money. I can afford my rent now for the day. Maybe he just doesn't want to be seen with me collecting garbage like a lunatic. Listen, I have a lot of debt to society to deal with. Maybe if people see me collecting a lot of garbage, they'll be like, maybe he's not so bad. Maybe they'll like me a little bit more. I don't know. Where do I sell my recycling to? And when does this bag fill? No, I don't want to talk to you. You're in the way of my bag, my garbage. What's this? Oh, it's also garbage? Dude, there's so much garbage in this game. I'm a hero. You guys see how much of a hero I am? Yeah, she keeps saying Piggo.
Hello again, officers. Have you come to admire my mural?
Is that bed in the coal room yours? Oh, not only have you found my address, you've discovered my biggest secret. I'm a coal miner. He does have eyes that seem to be smeared with coal. Funnily enough, the kind of black charcoaly makeup or whatever that's often used around the eyes and so on is also called coal, but not spelled C-O-A-L, it's spelled K-O-H-L. It's very poisonous. Do not... people, there might still be things that are called coal nowadays. They're like styled after it, but yeah, old coal used to be made of stibnite. It was very poisonous to people. It was very dangerous makeup. They might still make stuff that's like a semblance of that idea. It's actually one of the things I did a paper on at one point. I did a presentation on stibnite, and it's just a very beautiful, neat, spiky little mineral, but it's not good for you, and you don't want to smear it on your face. But that was what coal used to be made of. K-O-H-L. Really, you're a miner? Yes, I keep hoping a shaft will collapse on me, but somehow it never really happens. Not the nicest place, but I guess it'll have to do. It doesn't have to do anything at all. Nothing does. She looks at the paint dripping down the wall. Like me, right now I'm doing nothing at all. Don't you have a real home? Does anyone in a city like this? She replies wistfully, looking around. Cool, I have other questions. No, I can't ask her about the gun. She might not be the person. Although maybe I should investigate her room now that I know it might be her. Looks like there's more construction here once, decades ago. Dude, you guys litter a lot. Aren't other people pressed for money? I feel like there's got to be at least a few homeless people around here that would themselves be interested in gathering these things. Why am I the first person grabbing all this shit? This place is jammed with it. I have 8 plastic and 5 glass. That's something.
You're back. Good. What can I help you with?
Tell me about Wild Pines. What do you do? What we do? I'm afraid I don't speak for Wild Pines as a whole. It's a giant undertaking. There was a touch of discomfort there. She wants to merely represent. So what do they do? The Pines' core competency is logistics. Container shipping, freight, that sort of thing. She points to the small dots on the horizon. See those airships there, blinking? Those are the shipping side of things. Then to the east, towards the harbor. And that is the terminal. Another subdivision that deals with the energy, oils and gas oil and gas exploration, offshore platforms. The Wild Pines Group is one of the original Revicolian Indo tribes. Companies awarded royal monopolies by the king, the Caesarian himself. Centuries ago. The king is long gone, but several of the Indo tribes remain. Who are the other Indo tribes? Saint Baptiste, LUM, an unknown entity known as Brightest Star. You're in good company, it seems. Why, thank you. She does not register the real meaning of the remark. How much money does Wild Pines have? I'm not at liberty to discuss the company balance sheet, but I can tell you that last year the company booked more than 20 billion real in revenue. Wow. 20 billion is a large number, but the conglomerate employs 72,000 people. They all need to be paid. Then there are capital improvements, interest payments. A wave hits the sloop. She grasps the mainstay for balance. A conglomerate the size of wild pines is like a shark. If it stops moving, it will die. Then what becomes of those... Then what becomes of those 72,000 families? It's a tremendous responsibility. Let's do a little bit of math. Let's do a little bit where we take, let's see, 20 billion. So we'll do 20. There's, see, there's the hundreds, the thousands, millions, billions. There we go. Divided by 72,000. Okay. So you're telling me that all of those 72,000 families are making 277,000 real per year? They're all making in the ballpark of 250 grand per year, those 77,000 families? Obviously there's the whole like interest payments and capital improvements and all that, but I mean, as a cop, didn't they say that I make like 5,000 a year? And their company makes so much that each one of those families share would be like, if let's say we cut out like 25,000 from every single family share and combine all of that together to do the interest payments and capital improvements and other stuff of the expenses of the company. Are you gonna tell me that every single one of those families is making like a staggeringly large, like 50 times my income, every single one of them? Because I'm guessing that they're probably making garbage. Because she's the ultra liberal after all. I'm not really buying her argument that all these poor families are so dependent and we treat them so well. Dependent, maybe. You keep them that way. That's the design. Where does Wild Pines get all these billions? They started as an exploration and cargo fleet conducting trade between the Samoan and Insulindian Islas 250 years ago, when Pines ships explored the South Seminoes and charted Lo Manthang on behalf of the Suzerain. Centuries of care, deliberation, and madness have gone into this endeavor. Vessels pass through the great unrest to re-emerge with apricots in tow. The logic of the system is totalizing. It's taken everything from its employees to build it. It probably helps to start out with a royal monopoly. You know more than you let on. She takes a sip and looks you over afresh. Certainly it helped, but most of the original Indo tribes have failed or been absorbed. To survive, Wild Pines had to grow and adapt. No Suzerain did that. And what does a huge system want with a place like this? Look around. You mean aside from being the terminal's legal owners, she gives you a slight smile, who are responsible for moving 8% of the world's cargo? You don't keep it moving, the workers do. The company's nothing without them. We built this district, she says calmly. Once again, the workers did, but okay. We. There it is. She owns up to it. All the best parts of it. Rue de Saint Ghislaine with the bastions, the plazas, Meteor and Mosaic. Even some of the old street lamps have been put back thanks to investments from the WP. She points behind you where the seawall rises. Before Martinez was swallowed up by the industrial harbor, even before it was part of Rivicol. Long before Terminal B was erected here, the Pines were built as a resort for its Rivicolian employees. A company getaway for a weekend or a summer holiday. Then came the revolution, but that's another matter. She takes a sip. I'm here to make sure the Pines can fulfill their responsibilities to the place they built. What can you tell me about this strike? Everything, she smiles, right up to, but not including, trade secrets. Well, what if I want to hear about trade secrets? First, you'd have to repeal the Emergencies Act of Trade and Ailments that gives me the right to silence. It's quite the octopus. The octopus that straddles Rivercall. The Emergencies Act is the cornerstone of post-war Rivercall, inseparable from the world it created. An octopus, I'll slay it. Good luck. It's only kept in place by the vested interests of half the civilized world, including your own. What the man means is the Emergencies Act and the RCM both get their authority from the coalition government. You'd be shooting yourself in the foot, in other words. But I am derailing us. You wanted to know about the strike. What's your role in this precisely? I believe the official title is Senior Labor Negotiator. In practice, I'm a grocery clerk. I relay the union's demands to Wild Pines, and return with Wild Pines' counteroffer. And how are the talks going? They're not. That's the problem. The union stopped all negotiations a week ago, after the awful lynching took place. Wait, she just admitted that the lynching and the strike are connected. Now, they won't even let me into the harbor. There's a 2.20 meter racist behemoth blocking the gates. Tell me more about this behemoth. What can I say? The union employs a giant covered in tattoos. She pauses. A racist giant. I guess that's part of their big tent organization now. So the strike is connected to the lynching. Her eyes narrow. Yes, I believe there is a connection, but that's a subject for later. How were the talks going before the lynching? Let's say I was not making the kind of progress I'd hoped for when I first arrived. And when did you first arrive? I arrived 3 weeks ago, she thinks. Yes, in the middle of February. The bay was still partially frozen then. I prefer to do these things on site with like the RCM. He looks at his notes, but the strike began in December. I wasn't the original negotiator here. I took over after Mr. Gaumont hit the wall with Mr. Clare, the union boss. Mr. Clare refused to speak with Gaumont, despite concessions he'd granted the union in prior negotiations. This isn't the first time the union has gone on strike. Heavens, no. There have been 2 prior strikes. Both times the union won significant concessions, including overtime pay and a medical plan. This time their demands are more, I guess you could say, aggressive. Ludicrous, even, it's meant. What happened to this Gaumont? Mr. Clare told him to, how did he put it? She pauses to compose herself. Fuck off, midget. Gaumont is short of stature, you see. Not cool. Keep in mind, this is a negotiator Mr. Clare has worked with before and who was more than fair with him and the union. What are their demands? There are leaflets everywhere and banners. What do they say again? Oh yes. Every worker a member of the board. Most of the workers probably don't know what that means. I like it. Then you might also like their other slogan, Demand Democracy. Yeah, that's a good one. Personally, I don't think it has the same pizazzo as every worker, a member of the board. What exactly do they mean by it, though? What's the demand? It's quite simple, you see. Every time the Wild Pines group makes a decision about what? About anything, really. It needs the signature of each of the 2,200 workers in its Martinez terminal. Just so you understand, this is but one of 22 terminals owned by Wild Pines. Essentially, not only are they kings of the company, they're also kings of the 72,000 employees of the Wild Pines group. The king is dead, long live the workers. That may well be. It's not up for me to decide who is king. But as negotiations go, it's not a swell start. What are you going to do? I'm not sure. Naturally, I assumed that was just their opening position, a hard-nosed tactic with a side of mockery. But there's been no follow-up, just the same nonsensical slogan repeated over and over again. And now, people are getting lynched, I hear. Behind a whirling in rags. A disastrous situation if there ever was one. Excuse me. The lieutenant looks up from his notes. From who did you hear about this lynching? Her reply comes quick. I first heard it from the bois at the gates. Is it the beau at the... I don't know. The one whose very name advertises his aversion to work. I think he said it was call me manana. Mañana? I think it was? Yeah, mañana is the takeaway, because there's a lot of dialects that are thrown together in this game, and I've heard of mañana before, but I didn't know what we were dealing with. Mañana meaning tomorrow. So the name he goes by is Call Me Tomorrow. This checks out. No, wait. The chief negotiator heard it from a man at the gates? Surely the Wild Pines group has more effective channels of information. After all, 2,200 people are on strike. This is a big deal for them. The scabs at the gate. Did you put them there? The scabs? She raises her brow. You mean the huddled masses of Dramrock come to plead for work where the union refuses to? Don't let her answer it herself. No, I mean scabs. If these workers were organized by Wild Pines or its affiliates, then it would be a company secret. I could not share it with you. Not yet, at least. It's implied she's open to discussing this matter with you at a later occasion. Tell me about this union boss, Mr. Clare. Everard Clare is a man of the utmost integrity. If you can say one thing about him, it's that he always puts the interests of the workers first. Really? Of course not. Everard is fantastically corrupt. I imagine he has a thick, viscous goo where you have and I have blood. If you were to prick him with something sharp, you could see it oozing out. A knife, maybe? No, a rapier. You sound like you're about to take a rapier to him. Oh, heavens no. We get along just fine. Yet now that you mention it, I can't stop imagining that black treacle just dribbling down his double chin. She stops and smiles. Is he that bad? He is the most corrupt individual I have ever seen, and I deal with men like him for a living. If there is anyone more venal, more irredeemably nepotistic, then it's his twin brother, Edgar. Wait, there's two of them? Yes. Edgar looks exactly like his brother except for that lazy eye. He also talks exactly like Everard does. And when one's term as foreman is up, the other takes over. It's how they circumvent the term limits, you see. With a funny little switcheroo. While in office, they've embezzled God knows how much of their workers' dues. What about the union itself outside the Brothers Clare? The Debatteurs Union was once a perfectly normal institution. 20 years ago, anyway. It must not have been easy to establish under the Emergency Act, but they did it. I can respect that. She adjusts her hair. Organized labor, at its best, as they say. Then something happened at the local chapter elections. The Brothers Clare came and transformed it into a... how do you say... She hesitates, looking for the right expression. A mob, the lieutenant says succinctly. The debitors are a crime syndicate. Sad as it may be, we're forced to cooperate with them. Refreshingly honest, officer. She nods. The company has tried appeasing in the past, but I'm afraid our concessions have only emboldened Everard and his brother. She turns to you. And your opinion, detective, if I may ask? I'm a curious and talkative person, you see, she explains. Would you say the debitors union is... I don't fucking know. I woke up yesterday. I think this is less. I mean, I can't reasonably have an opinion about this union because I don't know this world and how these places work that well. But I mean, if they're fighting for workers' rights, then they're at least not just doing nothing, I suppose. But I think this is more a test. These are 4 options that match up with these 4 things. Where are they? Communist, fascist, ultraliberal, moralist, to some extent. Yeah. What's confusing is like saying basically a socialist mob. I think that's supposed to be like. Socialism bad, but really it's supposed to, I don't think you have the choice to pick this and be like socialism good, mob bad, or so on, because of the lynching part. But I don't know if they're an effective advocate, because I'd be speaking on behalf of their organization in a way that I don't necessarily know, because I'm still trying to figure out the setting. But I don't want to be a fucking centrist either, because also, it's not that I prefer to not to have an opinion on things. It's just that I am still working on figuring out my situation. An effective advocate for the rights of local working men. Why do you think so? Her voice is calm. There's only curiosity there. There's some stuff to unpack here. Between Everard, the human leech, and Measurehead, the union sounds like a motley crew. I'm into it. Wink. Alright, there's too many layers of irony here. I'm trying for me to parse what the actual meaning of that, of like what stance you're taking when you pick that. Sounds like they're all Revocol. I'm all Revocol too. The hell with the rest. Nationalism sounding speak. They're good labor men. Can't fault them for a little corruption. I'm not really sure about any of these choices. Partly because this one's a little too layered and strange phrasing. I don't know. They're good labor men. Can't fault them for a little corruption. Ha! She throws her hair back. A real man of the left. What else can I tell you about? One more thing. You said something happened in the elections. I'm glad you asked. There was a woman. The previous foreman of the union. She disappeared. Disappeared? Yes. On the last day of the local chapter elections, her daughter phoned in and said she wasn't running anymore, or coming to work, ever. End of story. This forewoman, her name? Her name? Sadly, the company records do not even give a name. She's just forewoman, in private correspondence, Holly. I don't even know if it's a sir or given name, and I don't have access to the union's files. Eerie. Downright haunting, if you ask me. The Wild Pines suspected foul play, and what could they do? It was a union matter. The point of presentation is, these kinds of things happen around the Clares. Watch out when you're dealing with them. Thank you for your concern, ma'am. We'll be just fine. That's all I need here. Let's change this topic. Of course. She passes the thermal cup between her gloved hands. How else can I help? What can you tell me about this lynching? Quite a few things, I'm afraid. She falls silent for a moment, contemplating something. Oop. Interview the wild... Yep, there we go. The information I am to share with you includes sensitive trade secrets. For the sake of my employer, I have to ask your names and badge numbers. Of course, ma'am. We should have introduced ourselves. Have we gone this far without telling her who we are? The lieutenant hands her a piece of blue plastic. I am Lieutenant Kitsuragi from Precinct 57. He points to you. And this is my colleague from Precinct 41. I'm afraid he doesn't have his badge at the moment. I hope mine will suffice. How curious. She returns the lieutenant's badge and turns to you. Why is that, detective? Remember when my partner told you I'd recently suffered from an unusual medical episode? My lost badge is related to that. I see. She looks increasingly worried. So, are you saying you lost your badge during the course of this episode? It's possible. After a night of heavy drinking, I lost all memory of my life and the world. Oh dear, she sighs with compassion. Sadness even. I suppose this does explain some of the more curious turns in our conversation. She must have been suspecting something for a while now. As I said, ma'am, the lieutenant interjects, his technique may be very unconventional, but he is an officer of the RCM. Of course, I sympathize, but I'm afraid I simply can't share anything more until I've seen that badge. She's a professional negotiator. She should be open to some sort of mutually beneficial arrangement. Uh-oh. How do I negotiate my way out of this? Feelings will guide my way. Oh no. But madam, I need to know about this lynching. It's very important to me. It's the case I'm solving. Thanks, police officer. I assure you it is no small matter for me either. We all share the responsibility for disarming the situation. I hope you have a badge for me as soon as possible. You don't understand. It's not like a side case for me. This is my main thing. Trust me, officer, I am fully committed to resolving this impasse. This isn't some side gig for me. You have so much else. I have only this. Spread your hands. This is the entirety of my existence. Whoa. She's silent. The wind flaps the sail above her. This boat, for example. And a home somewhere. I only have this case. Aw. Ouch. Officer. The carbon fiber hull creaks. I don't remember anything except this lynching. There is only this coast and this lynching. You know, she puts her foot on the guard wire. I don't mean to sound cold, but if you want something, you have to give something back. More than just guilt. You're doing it. Despite your own best efforts, you're still getting in somehow. I'll be frank with you. If I'm going to break protocol, I need to be able to justify it to my superiors. They're going to want to see something tangible. Like what? The Union is conducting drug trade out of the harbor. It's an open secret in Martinez. Surely it must not come as a complete surprise to the RCM either. Perhaps it's time to look into it. Or you can just find your badge, which honestly seems like a lost cause. Detective. Lieutenant closes his notebook. A word in private before we continue. Excuse us a moment, madam. Oh, hello. Jamais vu? Derealization. Jamais... I don't know how to pronounce it. Oh, it's the opposite of deja vu. Interesting. The opposite of deja vu. Not already seen, but never seen. Everything that should be familiar appears strange and new, like some half-forgotten day in your childhood. Only now, that feeling you've been having, and for who knows how long. You should go and ask Joyce Messier about this. What world are we in? This is the fundamental question. It's actually this is the follow-up on the previous thing that this thought came from talking to her. It was the impossible check. +1 experience for every orb that I click. Interesting. That's very interesting. -1 encyclopedia? Oh, but all int caps go up by 1. A little torn there. Huh. I have 95 experience. I gotta click more orbs, yeah. I'm about to have a breakthrough on my communism. Joyce's info on the lynching. There's something she wants to tell you. You just have to present her with your badge to hear it. Or perhaps if you did her a favor, she could wave it off the formality. Whatever the case, you need to know what she knows.
This is not going quite as I hoped it would, Detective.
The lieutenant's voice is hushed. How did you hope it would go? Honestly, I was expecting you to use your unorthodox technique to keep her off balance, and, you know, not to volunteer us to be her henchmen. I mean, I didn't mean to do that either. It just she just kind of said it, and I didn't technically say anything else. Oh, so we're henchmen now? This woman is running circles around us. She might have known about your misplaced badge all along, or she's simply an adept improviser. Either way, we've played straight into her hands. Maybe this is all her plan. She might have heard about you. We could just, you know, find my badge. Oh, he nods slowly. That would be fantastic. But do we have the time? The world's is large, and your badge is 8 by 6 centimeters. The situation might have changed drastically by the time you locate it. Time is of the essence. You could request a new one from the station, but that would literally take months. The company must have more ears on the ground. She could have known about my condition. I wouldn't go that far. Her reaction did come off as sincere to me. I think she's just quick to adapt. She is a professional after all. What do you propose? That we don't investigate the drug trafficking? No. If there is a reasonable suspicion, we must investigate. Otherwise, she would claim we're siding with the Union, or that we're on their take. We'd never hear the end of it. What I propose is, we ask her, then we investigate. Briefly. She adjusts his glasses. But do not share the outcome of the investigation with her. We'll tell her it's done and demand for her investigation, information on the lynching. Let's get back to her then. So the idea is we're going to investigate it, but we're only going to investigate it on behalf of the police and not actually share the information with her.
You're back. Good. What can I help you with?
Okay, tell me about this alleged drug trafficking. It's quite straightforward. Someone is using Terminal B to smuggle raw ingredients from the Samara Isola into Revachol with the Union's blessing. Wild Pines has suspected it for years. Ingredients for what, ma'am? Meth and dextroamphetamine, GBL, and various synthetic psychedelics. Honestly, it might be quicker to say that you can't make from the stuff. Let me get this straight. The materials come from Samara to Revachol through the terminal. Yes. After they clear the terminal, we lose track. The actual production is taking place at various sites in and around Jamrock Quarter, north of here. Wild Pines seems to be well appraised of the local drug trade, ma'am. Do you mean to say the union also produces the product? Sells drugs, I mean. We're in logistics. It's our business to know, and no. As far as the company knows, the union does not produce it. They transport the ingredients for a cut. And you want us to investigate? Yes, but you won't get anything out of Everett and the Dock Workers Union. Still. She raises her bony finger. Every chain has its weak link. The handoff. The motor lorries at the roundabout. The lorries. Precisely. Someone needs to move the ingredients from the harbor into the city. Once they reach Jamrock, they're distributed to a network of local manufacturers, well beyond our grasp. But in transit, they are vulnerable. Perhaps you've noticed that a number of lorries are tangled in a traffic jam at the roundabout just now. Interview the drivers who are still hanging about. One of them might be waiting for a crucial shipment. She gives you a knowing look. Her irises are light green, like the river, Esperus in bright daylight, upstream where it's clear. I'll be explicit. If you find this driver, I will share company secrets with you. Uncovering union secrets could also give you an upper hand when dealing with them. Why didn't you come to the RCM earlier? We did. On more than one occasion. Apparently there's some sort of inter-precinct disagreements with whose jurisdiction this area falls under. We know the company has launched its own probe into the union's alleged involvement. We also know it's come up empty. It's not just the RCM. No one's been able to find any hard evidence. Well, she smiles and points towards the roundabout. Here's your chance, officers. It's no coincidence the lorries are stranded there like that, is it? No. We asked East Motor Track to raise the drawbridge. The road company is a partner of one of the subsidiaries. However, she pauses, looking into the sea. This is a limited time opportunity. Once the complaint has been processed by the trade committee, we'll have no choice but to lower the drawbridge, and the operation will continue. She looks north. Thousands of liters of raw ingredients will pour into the streets of Revachol. Not the east, across the river, but the west, the vulnerable, the weary. A cold breath rushes in from the bay, making its way down the alleyways and potholed streets, from Martinez to Jamrock. In the traffic you hear the clinking of glass vials, concealed beneath tarpaulin. Or is it just your teeth chattering in the cold? Shiver, fucking misery. A lot of it. She nods. It comes in from large Samaran factories in Tian'an, Sige, and Xinhao. The literage they must get to from this terminal alone must be oceanic. Well, at least this solves one mystery. What is that, Lieutenant? Why I had to call East Motor Tract and beg them to open the drawbridge for me. I'd wondered since I first drove in on my motor carriage. I am sorry for the inconvenience, Lieutenant Kitsuragi, but we need them trapped here. This is a unique opportunity. I'm sure you understand. Drug trafficking. There's so many different layered, conflicting interests here. Anyway, I got a skill point. Boink. And I have one more thing to add onto this list. The head in the clouds. Whatever happened to Guillaume Le Million? Who, with his amber mane and sparkling teeth, beguiled the tattered remains of the nation. While you suffered and suffered, did he dematerialize into a cloud of cocaine dust? Or did he simply stand in the corner and melt into the slendering new lines of some starlit boy 20 years ago? Spare a thought for his great ass, too, or, wait, maybe he became a police officer in Revachol West. I'm gonna lose a point of logic. Hope it works out. Just telling me new, but for now it's not anymore. -5 authority is hilarious to me. What proof do you have the union's involved? How do you think they're financing this strike? There are thousands of unpaid dock workers going strong for the 4th month straight. There was a shakedown of local businesses preceding the strike. Many were squeezed to bankruptcy to fund it. With all due respect to these desert cacti, the contents of a few cash registers cannot provide for 2,000 men. The local businesses can scarcely provide for themselves. Do you think the strike is being funded with source ingredients for drugs? Precisely. Smuggled out of that very gate at night, most likely. Then loaded onto lorries and driven to Jamrock. You simply need to find one driver who will open up to you. She has an ulterior motive here then. It's not just the matter of like, man, aren't drugs bad? We better stop them. It's that the drugs are funding the strike. So if they can break the drug trafficking, they can break the strike. We already have some suspicions that one of the drivers was present at the lynching. The two might even be connected. Or not, though if you have evidence to the contrary, I'm eager to hear it. As eager as I am to share it, Lieutenant, once the job is done. Okay. I've made up my mind about the smuggling investigation. Yes? We'll take this case, probe the drivers, see what it yields. Excellent. She takes a long sip of tea. According to my reports, there are at least 3 lorry drivers lingering near the roundabout. Hopefully one of them will know something. I think it's going to be the guy... I think it's going to be the friendly guy. It's going to be the one that you don't want to bust, so it's going to be the friendly guy. But also because he won't leave his truck. So from the get-go, I suggested that, like, he won't leave his truck. It's probably because his cargo is actually pretty important. I think I even said it was probably illicit. It may come to nothing, or it may just blow the case wide open. I can keep the drawbridge up for a few more days at least. You should have the time you need. In the meantime, let me know if there's any other way I may be of assistance. She takes another long sip from her seemingly bottomless thermal cup. Side topic. Do you know anything about these tattoos? That's the man who was killed. She almost takes the photo, but then stops. I'm afraid this is a discussion for once we've cleared the lynching question. So you know something about the tattoos. Better not to tie the forestay to the backstay, Aldness. I hope there is something else I can help you with. Reality. Let's get to that next time. Oh, I was closing out, but there's a little thought here. Right. Mazovian socioeconomics. 0.000% of communism has been built. Evil, child-murdering billionaires still rule the world with a shit-eating grin. All he has managed to do is make himself sad. He is starting to suspect Krasmazov fucked him over personally with his socioeconomic theory. It has, however, made him into a very, very smart boy with something like a university degree in truth. Instead of building communism, he now builds a precise model of this grotesque, duplicitous world. Left-wing dialogue options give +4 experience. -1 to visual calculus. Reaction everywhere. And -1 authority. Downtrodden infra-communist. How does my authority keep getting lower? How is it even physically possible?